House today passed a pro-ICE resolution, 244 to 35. 34 Dems voted no. That's how many mustered the courage. The GOP praising ICE while putting the Dems on record ahead of the midterms. The Republican Party using unusual creativity and humor in the face of the Dems' praise of open borders, MS-13, and illegal immigration as the Dems continue to move further and further to the left in this country. For example, speaking of moving to the left, hard to believe he could do it, but here he is, Keith Ellison, claiming borders are an injustice and Mexican workers should be able to compete with Americans for high wages. And socialist darling Ocasio-Cortez has called for the abolishment of ICE and occupation of airports. Those go together, right? Joining me now, the co-sponsor of the Support ICE resolution, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney of New York. She serves on the House Financial Services Committee. And Congresswoman, we are delighted to have you with us.
Thank you.
That was an overwhelming vote. It's interesting that the Dems didn't want to vote no. 34 did, but present seemed to be their way of showing how much courage they have for their ideas about abolishing ICE.
Yeah, I'm surprised that anyone would vote against this. First of all, ICE is no different than any other important law enforcement agency that we have in this country that are keeping us safe. Something like 76,000 arrests were made in 2017 alone for dangerous drug offenses and thousands of others of serious crimes that are committed by illegal aliens who are in this country. So why would you want to abolish an agency that's keeping Americans safe? And the present vote, I thought, was just a weak vote. I thought it was just they tried to do it in protest, but really what this was about is there were Democrats that actually sponsored legislation to abolish ICE. And I would love to see that come to the floor as well and make them all vote no on their own bill. But the hypocrisy and the hysteria over this bill during the presentation was really quite spectacular.
Well, your leadership isn't about to take, I mean, that is, I can't imagine Paul Ryan having the flair to do that. This is his idea of returning serve.
I think that I think Kevin McCarthy was the one that really wanted to put it to the floor, our majority leader. But either way, we got them on record. They're showing, I mean, even Kirsten Gillibrand, who's the senator, one of my senators, has supported abolishing ICE. I mean, how absurd is that when she comes from an area in New York City where we have so many issues with crime, and you've seen it over the years.
Well,
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, we don't have time to go into the list of how many ways is she absurd in her politics. It's extraordinary. Speaking of absurd politics, the national left-wing media goes after the president because they thought he should have been a high school sophomore, bumping up against the leader of Russia with 6,500 warheads, nuclear warheads. I mean, who are these people? What have they become? And what is going to be the result here? I mean, we're watching the Democratic Party move left. The national left-wing media is going to arrive there before them, it appears.
Well, yeah, I mean, the media is ridiculous, and the media is not doing its job as the fourth estate. They're supposed to be providing us with the information that we need to make informed decisions. We're in a self-governing republic. They keep saying democracy, democracy. No, we are dependent on this government being the people that are running this government, which are the people under the 10th Amendment, and they're not informed. They're having a partisan left-wing media that's driving everyone,
not telling the truth. Well, we know it's no accident. I mean, look at the corporate ownership and hold the corporate ownership of these outlets responsible. I mean, when I look at CNN, NBC, and their various outlets, when we look at the New York Times, the Washington Post, it's appalling. And not once well, I'll put it this way, seldom do you hear their corporate ownership mentioned. Comcast, Time Warner, AT&T now, Jeff Bezos writing a check every year for what is a propaganda outlet. There's just no possible excuse for their conduct other than they have decided to be propaganda outlets.
Yeah, I mean, if you can give the president credit for, I think, a number of things. I think the presidency is remarkable, and as you cited in your earlier segment, look what he's done in less than 2 years. And look at the media now. One thing he's done, and I used to own a newspaper, so I know what it's like. I owned an alternative newspaper, a weekly, that I had to compete against the dailies and the other news media. Right. And for years, I've thought that, for years, I mean, I wish I could have coined the term fake news back then, because that's exactly what it was. They were always in the tank for whoever the status quo was, whoever they needed to protect protect. And in this case, it is really just all day long, never Trump.
Well,
no matter what, it doesn't matter what he does or says. If he says exactly what President Obama said, they melt down in hysteria, and it's really too bad.
Yeah, it's going to be too bad, I believe, for the Dems come November.
Let's hope so.
So long as Republicans in Congress attach themselves to the Trump agenda, I think they'll be fine. As a matter of fact, I think the Dems are going to have a lot of explaining to do to the electorate. Congresswoman, it's great to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Come back soon.
Thank you.
Tenney.
Have a great day. Thank you.